Okay, everybody, let's try all of this again, once more with feeling and fewer crashes. Here we go. The purpose of today's stream is going to be probably a multi-part episode where I'm playing the game Cities Skylines 2 by Paradox Interactive and Colossal Order Limited. Um, I'm going to be honest with you. When this first came out a year ago, it did not go over very well. But since then, in the last year, Paradox has done an amazing job on uh, building this game up to what a lot of us expected it to be. It's still not there yet. There are some glitches, and there is a bit of a steep learning curve. The reason for this video and for the next couple is a little bit twofold. One, I love playing it. I love playing City Skylines 2. I could sit down and play for 3 or 4 hours and not even notice that an hour has gone by. I have been late for doctor's appointments because of this game. But it is hard sometimes for people who are newer to the game or trying to figure out what to do to turn a profit at the beginning. And this is what my focus is going to be. We're going to start with a brand new city. We're playing strictly vanilla, and as of December 31st, 2024, I'm using all of the known DLCs available for this game. So, all the early access stuff, all of the downloadable content packs from Paradox themselves. Again, I'm not using mods. What you see available right now is what you get if you buy everything and boot it up for the first time. Um, this video is going to be uploaded to YouTube sometime later this week or early next as part of a series. I intended to do this bit of the video on webcam, but for whatever reason, my webcam was not webcamming. I don't know what to tell you. It was either fuss with it for an hour or not, so we just went with not. So we're going to start with one of the maps that I'm going to be honest, the default vanilla maps, none of them really make me excited. There's a lot wrong with all of them. And we're going to go ahead, though, and pick Twin Mountains because are we picking Twin Mountains? Buildable area of 39%. No. River Delta. It's what I'm doing a current city on. It's got a bad start. San Francisco. No. Okay. Sunshine Peninsula, on the other hand, has got a buildable area of 60%. I just know from the past it's got a bad start, but we'll pick something difficult here. All right. Well, not difficult, but you'll see what I mean in a moment. So let's go ahead and start with some of the basics on this. The basic theme for this map is going to be set to European, which means that the trees are going to look slightly more British than American. But that's okay because you're not going to notice. The climate is going to be 52 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, so it'll be warm-ish. That doesn't really have an effect on your game whatsoever. In theory, it would be boosting your tourism, but tourism in this game doesn't work very well. In fact, it only started working at all about a month ago. So we can ignore that. Latitude, Northern Hemisphere, again, we don't care. Buildable area, the whole map is buildable, as long as you have patience and a bulldozer. This is just the general how typically flat it's going to be for us. Our outside connections, this is important. Aside from having highway connections, which is the bare freaking minimum, this map is also going to have rail connections, which we will be exploiting, ship connections, which sound great, and if you played City Skylines 1, you know how important they are, and I want you to forget that because they're not. Air, which is even worse than shipping, sorry, calling it like it is, guys, and power, which we'll be using to generate some funds for our city as we start. The rest of the stuff is going to show you how generally available farming land, forestry, ore, and oil is. So we're going to pick these and get started. We are not, however, even as a demo city, going to be calling our city Sibley. No. We're going to call this... the first name that pops into my head is New Tealand, but Biffa of... Biffa's channel. I already covered that, so we're not going to go over there. New... I've already done a city called New Aberdeen. My brain just froze. Well, Los Ontario is the name of a large city in my most recent novel because I'm a novelist when I'm not playing video games. And really, I should play more video games and write more novels and play fewer video games. Okay, left-handed traffic, only if you're European and I'm not, so I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and switch the default theme to North American just for the sake of it. We're not going to play with unlock all or unlimited money or unlock map tiles. We're going to do this the hard way. We're going to come in here straight, vanilla, and pound this city out. And I need to work on phrasing. However, I am disabling tutorials because you have me. What do you need the tutorials for? Starting a new city in Cities Skylines 2 takes significant levels of planning. When we begin, we are approached with a giant map that is going to seem a lot smaller in about 6 hours. We're not streaming for 6 hours, just so you know. It's New Year's Eve. I want to fix some ribs and watch an alien movie. But there's plenty of room here, but at the same time, not a lot of room to do anything. As you can see, coming into our city from the edge of the map, we do have one highway connection, one rail connection, one power connection. And it's going to swing us all the way down over here into this flat, theoretically fertile grassland that in any other environment or time would be perfect for us to build on if it wasn't for the fact that this would be better used for about 13 different other things than a starting small neighborhood. Up here would even be great because, again, more flat, but you have to worry about how to get up and down the mountain, or even along here on the coast would almost be better. But these are the cards that we've been dealt. And let's see what we can do about founding our first city in Cities Skylines 2. And again, as of right this second, December 31st, 2024, I have available all of the DLCs, all of the European map packs, all of the Japanese map packs, all of the French and Denmark and the modern architecture packs, and some of the building sets. So if you haven't played in 6 months and you're like, wow, what's all this new stuff? That's where this new stuff is. I'll break it down as much as I can when I can, but let's first dive into some of the very important things that we have to look at right as the city begins. As you take a look, we have nothing. We have a power line, yay, and we have a highway, yay, that terminates into a 4-lane road, boo, and everything else is up to our imagination. There are no goals. There are no rules. There are rules. We're also starting off with $1 million flat, and this is going to steadily decrease as the things we build start costing the city money. My goal is to show you how to make your city make money. And we're not going to do a whole lot of that until I can actually click on icons. Few things to keep in mind, and this is how we're going to define our gameplay experience. Buildings in this game are broken down into several different categories, starting with the very basics. And that would be residential, commercial, industrial, office zones, and specialized industry. Residential zones are blocks that you're going to be telling your potential new citizens live here. They'll move in, they'll build residential buildings, and move in. But once they move in, they need to have places to shop, like commercial zones, and then they're going to need places to work. At the very beginning of the game, they're going to need industrial zones. They're also going to need specialized industry. And again, this is where our money's going to be coming from. So keep an eye on this tab because we're going places with it. When you very first start a city, the only access, you notice that a lot of these are locked, and the only access you're going to have to things are going to be low density housing. So these are single family units, and also the Japanese and the United Kingdom housing units are all locked up too. We also get low density businesses and low density Japan inspired commercial businesses. It's the same thing, it's just skinned differently. Industrial zones, which come in one flavor. Office zones don't unlock until we hit level 4 for our city. We'll talk about that as we go there. And specialized industry. The only industries we start off with are farming, specifically livestock and grain, we'll quickly unlock vegetable farming, and then textile fiber. We'll also start with forestry and stone. We'll unlock coal mining, ore mining, and oil drilling later. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. We are going to be using the bare minimum of these because they are ugly. Real talk for a second. I live in West Virginia. Specifically, I live in one of the more urbanized parts of West Virginia, if you could call it that. The problem is, I literally live, and this is not a joke, a block away from a Superfund site. To another block away, have a site that has been remediated by the West Virginia Department of Energy, and it has been deemed inhabitable for human occupation for the next forever. That's it. It's a concrete pad near my house. It is toxic. And as someone who looks at ugly things every day when I look out my bedroom window, I don't like looking at them when I'm playing a video game. I realize that there's a difference between realism and, just playing a game. And I get that. We will be making industrial areas, but we're going to do them in a way that the people who ran my home city 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 10 years ago, last month, didn't. And we're going to do our best to do it better within the constraints of a mix of healthy realism and actual functionality and the ability to exploit this game engine, because I'm not a perfect person. All right, before we get into zones, though, we also need to look into the other thing, and this is one of the things that I will bash this game on pretty hard. We do have to worry about sewer and water. You may notice these little lines underneath this road. That's because in Cities Skylines 2, it puts sewer and water pipes automatically attached to your roads. You shouldn't, in any sane world, have to zone them yourself or to direct where you want a water pipe to go to. Except this isn't a sane world, and while they did think to include them under roads, they didn't consider highways roads. Realistically, it makes sense. You don't typically see somebody running a water main under I-77. But as a game mechanic, it completely screws up the whole process. You can, later in the game, export your water and your sewage out to other cities and countries. Sometimes you make a profit, sometimes you pay them to get it done with. But what this game does, that Cities Skylines 2 figured out, what this game doesn't do, that Cities Skylines 1 figured out, is the sewage outlet problem. There is no way to start this game that I'm aware of without polluting your water. You can't make a pit and just, put in some water of its own. It's just going to suck. And we're going to end up with some brown, brackish water for a while, and there is nothing that I can do about it. The water mechanics in this game are not ideal. So my personal goal, one of the very first things that I'm going to do, is to find a way to get rid of this sewage outlet pump. But we do have to put it down, no matter what it does to the color of my map's water, because otherwise this city will die almost as soon as we start, and yeah, it'll defeat the whole purpose. The good news is, if you can call it that, is that this game has next to nothing in terms of beach assets. So hey, what's a little bit of sewage? Nobody's going to be living on the coastline anyways. It really does infuriate me, because Cities Skylines 1 figured this out within its first 2 expansions. All right, so them's the basics, with one more exception. And in this case, it's power. Now, on some maps, you don't automatically start with a power connection to the outside world. This power connection is going to allow us to import power without polluting the crap out of the city. On the other hand, importing power is very, very expensive. And if we go this route, it may actually slow us down from making a profit. But before we put down anything, we have to figure out what our road network is going to look like. And this is something that Cities Skylines 2 gets right. With the most recent patches, we have had our road menus expand exponentially. Even at the very start, not only do you have the 2-lane and the 3-lane roads, you've got 1-lane and 2-lane one-way roads, 3-lane one-way roads. We have gravel roads, gravel one-way roads, alleyways, one-way alleys, and roads that allow to have slanted or perpendicular parking on them, plus some variations of all the above, and pedestrian streets where cars shouldn't, and I use that heavily in quotes, walk. They will if they're delivering cargo to a business or if it's a hearse or something else, but it'll largely turn all your traffic into foot traffic. We also, at the very beginning, get access to medium roads, but only a few of them. We don't get access to large roads, including 6-lane roads, 7-lane asymmetric roads, uh, larger bridges. We also don't get access yet to highways, despite the fact that there's a highway literally right there. We don't get access to the game's default intersections, absolutely none of which that I like and I only use because I am terrible at designing my own, and I cannot wait for the Asset Creator Pack to come in. We do, however, get access to very basic roundabouts at the start and a wide variety of them. And for those of you who are interested in building fancy neighborhoods, you even get a little bit of cul-de-sac action going on. Then, as we level up the city, we'll get access to all kinds of parking lots and eventually road services. And this is just really the tip of the iceberg for this game. Now that I've gone through the general basics of what tools we have at the very beginning, let me show you what the progression panel is like and how we're going to develop. When you click this button over here, that at the moment is marked as 0 and shows 0 of 750 EXP, you're going to see that we have access to a variety of different development paths that'll unlock numerous different buildings and functions and mass transit and healthcare and garbage management and all the things that our city is going to need at some level. Whew. But we unlock these by leveling up our city. We level up our city by building buildings, improving our citizens' happiness, and having people move in, not to mention maintaining a positive income. Now, at the very beginning, we have the things I mentioned unlocked, and that's really about it. But just to give you an idea of what's coming up, roundabouts, advanced road services, and things of this nature, and it's going to be a hassle. There's no nice way to put it. It feels like conceptually, it feels like a good idea. You want to level up your city. You want to, pick, do you want a highway right now or a train station? Do you want to worry about waste management or focus on education? But at the same time, it also introduces an artificial limit that can be more of a headache than you need it to be. And as we level up, we'll get some additional things. When we hit level 1 in a moment, we'll get a city loan, we'll get extra map tiles, access to the ability to adjust our taxation and budget and services, medium density housing, and it just progresses as we go through. Just to give you an idea. We don't have to worry about achievements. All right. So let's first come over here, and I'm going to actually mute the in-game radio because I'm not sure if all the in-game music is suitable for streaming. I mean, I think it is, but I think there's some broadcast rights on some of it. I don't know. All right. Now that we've taken a peek at all of that, let's see about establishing our road network. And this is when the first round of planning is going to have to begin. If you don't get your planning right at the start, while it can be redone in the future, it can make it very hard for you to turn a profit without having to restart your plan. So let's begin. And before we begin, one last thing. Whenever you're laying out your roads, your zones, your buildings, or whatever, I strongly recommend clicking on Show Contour Lines. Because when they're off, oh look, it's Flatlandia. It's great, there's no hills anywhere. Oh wow, there's some hill-looking things here. Surely they can't be that steep. Until you turn on the lines I just mentioned. Contour lines. Excuse me, my brain froze. Every dark line you see, specifically like where I've got my mouse hovering right now, this darker line, is a 10-unit elevation from the previous dark line. So this is 10 units. That goes 10 units. And the next one is 10 units and 10 units. If you've ever tried to read a height map, this is all that it is. But that height map makes a big difference when you start looking at a road, the road incline, you know, how far up, what's my grade like? Well, this is a 10% grade almost. For sake of the game, a 9% grade works just as well as a 2% grade. For sake of realism, a train is not going to want to take a 10% grade. And it really helps when you're working in more hilly territory, like over here, that you're able to, you know, plan out your streets like you would see them as giant steps leading up and down a hillside, and how you want your buildings to be laid out up against the hill. It makes a difference when it comes to leveling out terrain and flattening things, and, you know, trying to solve problems like that. All right. The very first thing that I do when I look for the plan to start my city is to take a look at my industrial buildings, going over here under zones and then specialized industry. It's not going to tell me where we have deposits of coal, oil, or ore, unfortunately, until we have those unlocked. It will tell me where my fertile land is in this case, or where my timber is. Yellow being fertile land, which is suitable for grain, vegetables, and textile fibers. Then forestry, obviously, for wood. Then for stone mining, stone does apply for coal and ore, so we know that there are stone deposits up here, up here, up here. Oil, hey, who knows? Who knows? We don't know. We have no idea. And we won't know until we hit level 4 for our city. And by that point, we may have already built a development over something that we wouldn't have wanted to. But that's a game issue. That's not an us issue. Sometimes you can go in under natural resources and look around and... Okay, yeah. If you go up in the main menu under I and then go down to natural resources, the black marks on the land, that's oil. So we know we have forestry here or here, sorry, farming up in here, forestry or oil, all right for development. But truth is, we're going to be doing very little of very many of those. We will be exploiting timber. We will be exploiting farmland. So knowing that we have farmland over here, let's come over to our pathways. Bring back up natural resources. You have to go to pathways first, then natural resources. And then let's spend a little bit of our starting money just to identify roughly an area of major farming industry. Yes, there's more fertile land up around through here that we could exploit, but if you take another look at it, the darker the color for the resource, the more of it there is. In fact, if anything, I overdid it on that. So let's tone this back a little bit, because we want to make sure that we are using our space the absolute best we can. Then we'll use our bulldozer tool to get rid of this area. This is strictly a guide road. This is for my personal planning purposes only, and it bears nothing to do with how we're actually going to be doing stuff in this game, aside from the fact it tells me where we're going to build and what we're not going to build. Now I'm going to select that segment, and I'm going to highlight the end of the segment with a bulldoze tool, and nothing happened. And then delete it while it's all selected. There we go. Moving on. Now that we know where our farms are going to be, we also have a rough idea of where it's going to be a decent enough place to put some industry. Or do we? Because we also know that there's forestry up here. Industry in this game works fairly straightforward. We're going to use some specialized industry buildings to serve as harvesters for these resources, and forestry up here in a little bit too. And then we're going to have them processed at industry buildings, which will make either materials that are more useful or will be processed by other industry or office buildings. It's sort of a supply chain thing. Have to have the resources before they can be developed. And that's, again, how we're going to make our money. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to say that our industry area that we're going to want to start with is right up in here. So we know that we're going to be building some basic industry up here. We know not to build around in this forest area, maybe, and we know not to build down around here. What does that leave us with? Well, I don't know about you, but makes it look to me like it leaves us with this for our residential. Now, let's take a little bit of a look at our geography. What's our future plan going to be like? How are we going to be directing people in and out of the city? Where are we going to want people going? What is our main roadway network going to look like? We've already established that we're putting industry up here and a second industry up here, which means in the future we will want our highway system to, at the very least, come somewhere up in here and probably do some sort of highway network crossover either out here. Well, let me rephrase that. We're going to want to have some form of intersection in this area, or at the very least over here. And we're probably going to be splitting our major highway back around here. I don't think that it's going to make any sense for us to take our main highway system and shunt it all the way across all of this wonderful elevated land, all of this river territory, when we're going to just as easily be able to split it with a 3 or 4-way intersection later. Have highway coming off there, highway going up there, highway going off there, and having a highway node coming into the main part of the city right here for our first couple of neighborhoods. So now that I've done all this talking for the first half an hour, just talking about planning without actually doing anything, let me start by building a few things. We know that this road is going to be upgraded into a highway later, just not right now. So for the meantime, let's use our largest road we have available to us, which is going to be more of a 4-lane road. We're going to drag it out right out to here. We're going to turn off snap to zone grid. We don't need that. And snap to zoning cell length. This button will get you in so much trouble with your roads, it's not even funny. One that I do love though, snap to 90-degree angles. I'm a grid guy at heart. I like making things look shiny and fluffy as much as the next person, but I do like my hard 90s when I don't have to do anything else. And you may notice that for some reason, the road just broke up right there with a little bit of zoning glitch. Welcome to Cities Skylines 2. By all means, that should just be a straight stretch of zoning, but the game broke it up. Why? Because the game broke it up. You can try to get around it, you can try to get off, snap to guidelines and things of that nature, but honestly, it doesn't always work. All right, so we've got our road stretched out this way. We know that we're going to eventually want to follow this curve some. So let's look and go ahead and drag it out of here more. We're using our straight line tool right this moment. And it turned on that snap to guidelines again. Let's undo that. Delete our roads. That it did it too. 80 degrees, straight out, still did it. Yeah, I have opinions. Wow, it's doing that everywhere. How quaint, how nice, how lovely. Let's delete it. We'll get some money back, but not all the money we spent. All right, that's a little bit better. Now, we're going to start planning out our first neighborhoods. This is not going to stay 4-lane for all forever. In fact, it's likely that I don't know what we're going to do with that. We're going to do something with it, but we're not going to be doing anything with it right this moment. So, since we're not doing anything with it right now, let's start by planning out our neighborhoods a little bit. And for our first few people coming in, let's get some city blocks established off of what's eventually going to become a 6-lane main drag. This will be 6-lane. We won't want to have our low-density residential up against it. So we'll be ignoring everything in this block. We'll keep going with our straight lines though. We're going to be as close to flush to that as we can. And one thing to note, this game does allow you to make pre-determined grids by using the grid tool, which is in and of itself pretty useful. Oh shoot, did I just glitch? Almost glitched. So you can do something like this to make predetermined zone grids. They are useful, but it's just not my cup of tea. Your mileage may vary. Alright, and now we're just going to make some very, very basic neighborhoods down here, going at 90-degree angles. 90 degrees, 180. We're going to make sure that we have snap to guidelines off, snap to zoning cell length off, '90 at 90. We're good. And another glitch in the matrix on this. It doesn't like to adhere to existing zoning cells. Those open spaces that just put down would be places where people wouldn't be able to move in. And this is completely flat land. It shouldn't, by any stretch of the imaginations, actually be doing that. But it did it. And I can't do anything about it. What it's telling me is that when we zone, buildings are going to zone facing the road right there instead of the road right there. I'm going to show you a hack to force them to do that, though. So if I run a path right there, suddenly it's going to force the game to zone facing that road. It's a quick, it's a dirty, it's kind of lame that you even have to do it, but we kind of have to do it. So let's do that. Let's force our buildings facing the direction we want them to face for purposes of traffic, for purposes of design, for all that other fun stuff. I'm not a huge design guy. Yes, I like my cities to look a certain way in a certain direction, but at the same time, I want functionality more than I want to focus on being a stickler for design concepts. The only time I will fuss over design concepts is if it's something that's game breaking or something game exploitative. All right, we've put a little bit of small commercial right here, a little bit of light residential here and here. So when people move in, once we take the game off of pause, they'll be coming in up there. But they don't have any place to work yet. We need to get around to fixing that. We are going to put a small roundabout right there for future planning purposes. Take our 4-lane, come up a decent amount, because we've already discussed that we know that there's going to be industry coming in from over here, industry coming in from down here, and I want to make sure that they're being funneled directly into this industrial sector, making the industrial sector that's more or less right in the midpoint. At the same time, for aesthetic purposes, when I first drive into a city, I don't want to drive into somewhere and see nothing but smokestacks. So we're going to make sure it's off the main highway a little bit and gives us enough room to put up some commercial district buildings or whatever else to block the look of the highway, or block the look of the industrial section from the highway. And because these are industrial buildings, they will be generating additional traffic. We're going to go ahead and use 4-lane roads to make sure that our trucks have less of a headache getting around than they would otherwise. And roundabouts in this game really do make a disgusting amount of difference. So we will be loading up on those. They do eat up a little bit of space at the corners, but in all honesty, it's a huge headache saver as you're trying to manage random traffic problems when they pop up in the future. But we're also not done yet, so hang tight. For this, in order to force these buildings to grow the direction I want them to, I'm going to be using our rectangular marquee tool to select the cells that are facing the road that I want them to be building on. We do have some additional space through here, so I'm going to use the pathway tool to fill in that space a little bit and to encourage some of our citizens from being on the road. The downside is, if you're not careful, every time you put down a regular pathway against a road, it will trigger an additional crosswalk. You can get away with that by just moving right up to the edge and not connecting to the road node. Nodes are your friends and your enemies in this game. The whole game is built around the concept of nodes and directions for your sims and your traffic and all that. And quite honestly, it's too big of a headache to get into for the sake of this particular video. So we've built some industry, and honestly, I've built that industry in the wrong direction. It goes further out that way than I wanted to. We'll go ahead and split this a little bit right over there next to this road at a 90-degree angle. We'll come back. We'll unzone, dezone, sorry. That much. Rezone right there. And a little bit right there. What these arrows indicate, the direction for wind. You don't want to have your industry zones being built right over here and having the wind blow the smog into your citizens' houses. Kind of a bad idea. All right. Whew. Are we done yet? No. I'm sorry. No. We're not ready for our citizens to move in. First, I need a save. Sunterio. We're actually going to save this as Lost Sunterio 2, so it doesn't erase another city by the same name. Okay, we've handled some basic zoning, but we haven't handled a whole lot. We haven't made a final decision yet on power. We really only have two options right now. Well, three. We can start with wind turbines, but the game is telling us that our wind speed is too low. If you look underneath where it says 25,050 experience and electricity production, that wind speed too low basically means what it says. The wind is not fast enough at this location for us to be able to produce enough electricity to make this a viable purchase. So, wind power is out. Small coal plants, listen, I hate them. Again, I live in West Virginia. I hate them. However, they are cheap, they are efficient, they will handle our initial power needs at the start. Or option 3, we can import from other cities. Our goal is going to be to build up to the geothermal power plant, but we don't have access to that. And even once we get access to it, its initial cost is extremely prohibitive, and it may be problematic for new players trying to get in, or it's more than likely not going to be something you're going to want within the first 3 or 4 hours of your city. That said, once you have this done, as long as you put it on a big chunk of water like this, you'll be good, period. You'll have enough power to power almost your entire city for the rest of your game, up until the point that you need to have a nuclear power plant, which is a different story altogether. For right now, though, for the sake of this video, we're going to invest in a coal power plant. Because we're not mining any coal right now, though, we are going to be reliant on coal exports. This is going to create a challenge for us, because we're going to have to be reliant on the game buying and selling coal, having it brought in, and it will go against our annual budget. It's not just going to be the upkeep costs that this thing references of $5,000 to $45,000 a month. It's going to be our upkeep cost, period. In fact, I have to be honest with you. I think with all those things in consideration, right this second, I'm not going to build any of that. We're going to see how much power we can actually get by with using by putting down a transformer station right over here against our road network, dragging in a power line to it, and importing power from the outside world. It might even be cheaper than coal. I don't actually know off the top of my head. We're going to find out together. Last but not least, we need to deal with water. We have various water options to choose from. including the water pumping station, which extracts water from a lake or river and brings it over into the city proper. These will tune in, what is it, 100,000 cubic meters a month for an upkeep of $5,000 a month. These will do significantly less, 30,000 and 7,000 a month for 30,000 and excuse me. The basic water tower has got a pool of 30,000 meters cubed for an upkeep of 15. This one does 15 for an upkeep of 7.5. This one does 20 for an upkeep of 10. For the most part, a lot of these are just for looks. Cost difference, $25,000 on a standard water pumping station versus $60,000 on a water tower. It feels like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Downside is that water pumping stations will lower the amount of water you have in a river. It can dry out a small lake like this one. And if there's pollutants near the water, it'll suck the pollutants up and feed it to your city. I wouldn't know anything about that at all, ever. However, for the sake of the game, for right now, while I'm not a huge fan of using water pumps, we will go ahead and use one. But we have to keep in mind the other part of that. Oh, and we do have groundwater pumping stations, which, unlike the water towers can be placed anywhere. Groundwater pumping stations could really be placed anywhere we see groundwater, but it will use up that reservoir eventually. It's just about cost equivalent. It's not quite, but you don't have to worry about active water pollution. You have to worry about active ground pollution. And again, with me complaining about the water earlier, well, this is why. Because wherever I put this, it's going to pollute all the water going downstream. And again, it's not something we have a choice in the matter. We can't put it on land. And because it doesn't have water pipes underneath the highway, we can't just go ahead and preemptively export it. Eventually, we'll get the ability to deal with this with a wastewater treatment plant, but not for a while. They're expensive, they have significant upkeep, and it's a bit of a problem. Well, I've done nothing but talk for about the last hour straight. My voice is starting to feel it. Let's go ahead, bite the bullet, much as I hate to. We're going to have to set this over here. And if you try to pull it away from the shoreline, not on shoreline. Yes, I noticed. So we're going to... Oh, this poor, beautiful natural beach. Drat. And we're limited right now to everything on this side of this dashed line. So, hey, look at us. We're poisoning a beach. Go us! Now we have to run a sewer pipe to our closest pipe connection. Connection made in. And then I'll go ahead and set a water pumping station north of that. Run a water pipe. And this is one of those things where I don't care. I don't care. I don't like it. I don't like the mechanics so much that I don't even strive for realism or even pretendism. I just stick it where I can and we live with it. And we're going to go ahead and see, where's our sewer pipe at? Sewer pipes don't require roads, weirdly, but water pumping stations do. So we have to get to our water pump, but not necessarily our sewage output, because hey, once it goes into the toilet, who cares, right? Am I right? Yeah, I'm right, because yeah, again, I live in West Virginia, and this is how we roll. Okay, so our road network is hooked up over there, and really this gravel road, that alone would have been enough to connect a water pipe. All right, I think we're good. We've got water, we've got a power decision made, we've got zones started. The only thing we haven't done yet is the way for us to earn actual money. let's get to work on that. Then we'll unpause the game and probably level to level 1 almost immediately. Now, I mentioned we have all these wonderful natural resources over here, and I plan on exploiting the ever-living crap out of them. And I plan on doing that by bringing up the resource tab, seeing where they are. We're going to come over here with our 4-lane roads, bring up the resource tab again. We're going to drag one of our 4-lane roads all the way through here, close down to this roadway connection we installed a few minutes ago. I'm going to get it awfully close. Turn on snap to guideline because I want to line up with that intersection. And here's where I made a mistake. Because that pathway created a crosswalk, it's interfering with the node. We're also going to go ahead and upgrade, well, we'll have to do the same thing over here, to destroy those pathways, to free up that crosswalk. Done. Come over here. We're going to install 4-lane, upgrade that, connect 130-degree angle, which is close enough, and get back to what we are going to be using as a main drag road later. Then we'll go over here, we'll drag a few extra blocks out. 90-degree connection. Done. .90-degree connection. Done. And boy, this intersection looks really ugly, doesn't it? I think it looks dreadful. So we'll delete it. We'll come down. We'll get our lineup made. We'll swing over 90-degree. That eats up some of our fertile land, but we'll live with it. Then we're going to delete these guide pathways just to get them out of our hair. We don't need them anymore. Same with this one. And hey, look, we've got our start of a road network built. Kind of cool, isn't it? Okay, I realize that what I consider cool is not necessarily cool. So we know, and if this infographic would stay up, we know that we have significant amounts of fertile land coming all the way down through here. Would you please stay up no matter which window I click on? Thank you. And we're going to run this road off at a 30-degree angle to mimic that 30-degree angle. Then we're just going to pick a spot that looks something remotely like the center and drag down. Done. Okay, we now have a road leading in there. We have some pretty significant territory unlocked. And let's start making some industrial farms. Now, full stop. I am terrible at making these look good. I'm awful. I'm bad. I'm disgusting. And I'm sorry. I strongly recommend following like Imperature or City Planner Plays on YouTube. They can make the industrial farm areas look so beautiful and so well done. But I'm not here for being pretty. I'm here for exploiting labor. We're going to start that with grain farming. The way the specialized industry areas work is you pick an area that's ripe in the resource you want, you select what resource you want to extract. In this case for us, it'll be grain farming. You pick a point where you want to set it. Then if you can see that circle is the potential area you will be able to extract from for that building. It's set in a circle for no apparent reason whatsoever, no useful reason. These buildings, none of the extractor buildings cost a single penny. Once you put them down, that's it. These are the only things that I can think of that do nothing but generate you income. Therefore, they're really important and we'll be exploiting the crap out of them. But this isn't too far away from how the real world works. A private citizen buys a farm, gets a tax break from the city, buys a plot of land, gets a tax break, decides to set up a farm. Or a private enterprise buys a small chunk of mountain range, sets up an ore mine, gets a massive tax break, contributes to the economy, doesn't pay the city for it. The city may invest money into building roads or networks or whatever leading up to it. So it's not too unfeasible. So the thing is, though, when we set these down, we're going to have to click on the building eventually. Yes, you. Okay. Then area tool. You can do this another way, right? When you set down the building. I don't like to. We select the area tool. We pick the area we want to have dedicated to this building's operations. Right now, I'm just going to go from street corner to street corner instead of trying to spend an hour making it look fancy. Get these down to some nice 90-ish degree locations. That was 92. That hurts my heart. And then we're done. And now this is a farm. This farm will be generating off of this territory. And it is so ugly. And we're going to do the same thing over here. We're actually going to set up 1, 2, 3. For no particular reason, we're just setting up 3. We're going to extend this one out about as far as we can on the road. You can extend entirely past it, but I just don't want to have to, well, you know, the easier way about this. And this is why you should set your road networks before you set your design. Because, remember I said that was at 92%? For whatever reason, it's not meshing up correctly. All right, we'll fix this annoying little roadway glitch later when we buy this next tile. But for the second, now you may ask yourself, but Self, isn't it very unlikely that you'd see giant industrial farms right in the middle of a major metropolitan city? Isn't the name of this game Cities Skylines and not Cities Out in the Holler? Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's also not Cities Minecraft. And the downside of this is that while industry is incredibly important to your city, it's going to stick out in a lot of ways, especially at the very start when you need it the most. Once your city builds up and progresses, you may never need another piece of industry again. I have a city right now that's got over 200,000 residents, doesn't have a single oil building in the entire city. Oh wait, it's got oil. Doesn't have a single ore building in the entire city. Didn't need it. Didn't want it. The landscaping effect looks ugly. Didn't build it. Completely fine without it. But if I hadn't built a couple of industrial sections at the start, I wouldn't have turned a profit and I wouldn't have done anything with the city. So we're going to see a little bit of weird development here. And that brings me to the final lesson before I start the city officially. And that's, this is a game. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings if you decide that having 4 farms in the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle of nowhere, towards the dead center entry pathway to your city along the major highway location makes any sense whatsoever. And you delete them. This is not Grandpappy's old farm. You can delete them. You can build a stadium or a business district or anything else here that you absolutely want. And that's completely okay. I don't care what you do with your city. If you decide you hate these farms and you can't figure out a way to make them look pretty and you want to get rid of them, by all means, go for it. But wait until your city starts turning a profit. We can pretty things up later, but right now, we need to make this work. And now, we've got everything we need. We have production buildings, we have a basic road network, we have water, we have sewer, we have industry, we have power. We're saving our game one last time under Lost Centurio 2, overriding the save, resuming game, and finally, we are letting things build. Holy crap, people are moving into our city. Holy crap, we didn't actually get to level 1. I'm sad about myself for that. All right, and now we're in the waiting game. Already, we're losing money, but we're not losing a whole lot. We're only losing about 1,000 an hour, which for our city is not that bad at all. So let's sit back, take a second, admire the good work we've done, and wait. Well, let's also put it up to speed 3. Otherwise, we're going to be bored. Oh, look, we have 2 people who have just moved into our city. Down here, your city population. Over here, your total finances. I have to sneeze. Wasn't kidding about the sneeze. Ugh. I also haven't figured out how to map a mute button to my keyboard yet. My bad. Now, this game is not without... Ew, let's fix that. That's slightly annoying, isn't it? That is slightly annoying. Okay. I will give Paradox Interactive their due, because they were awesome enough to recently include a bunch of detailers and developer tools that we'll be using while we wait for the city to grow up. And we're going to start that by running a path down around. There we go. Milestone 1 unlocked. Tiny village. Congratulations. Your efforts are bearing fruit, and your city has taken its first steps towards success. Click on the progression panel for more. We just earned $25,000, a development point, and the ability to buy 3 different cells outside. Excuse me. Plus, we've unlocked the Church Inn, which is a free building, and we're going to be getting a lot of those shortly. So let me explain what those are, and then I'll tell you what we just unlocked. As you build in this game and reach certain milestones, you will be able to access special, what they call signature buildings that have no cost. They provide a variety of different functions. For residential signature buildings, they'll increase the well-being around a neighborhood, wherever they're at. For mixed residential and commercial buildings, which we'll see later, they'll increase the city's attractiveness and the well-being. For commercial buildings, they'll decrease your city's import costs for everything. That's very important, and we'll discuss that in a bit. Increase your city attractiveness, which is also important, and will likely increase the well-being around the area. For industrial, these are a little different, and this is where one of the exploits is going to come in. We'll get back to industrial later. Just for right now, know that they're here. And then for office, it'll increase the office efficiency, interest in university education, interest in university graduation, and the well-being around the city as a whole, or at least in a small area. Right now, let's take a look at our neighborhood, see what's zoned in. In our small little plot of land over here, about 4 blocks worth, we do have new homes, new houses. People have moved in. They're happy to be here. Over here, we have industry that's moved in, where our hardworking people from over here are coming up and working. And then over here, we've got a handful of commercial buildings where people will be coming by, shopping, filling up their cars, and buying drugs, it looks like. That wasn't a joke. That's pharmacy at 43 Autumn Street. They'll be buying pharmaceuticals from the pharmacy that you can see says pharmacy on it. Cool, huh? All right. So what's next? What's next is that I sniffle a little bit because I live, again, in the Middle Ohio Valley. We've received 1 development point, and development points are what give us access to the other buildings and things that we'll be building that we have to unlock as the game goes through. We can either get big roundabouts or advanced road services, such as the ability to change traffic lights to stop signs, or we can go over here. We've got 1 development point available. We can get a battery station or crematorium, hospital. Listen, all of these things are going to cost us a lot of money to build, and they're going to run against us. Now, we've got plenty of money to build these things right now, well, at least a few of them, but we're going to go for the basics. I want my roundabouts, and I want my roundabouts now so that I can plan around them in the future. As you can see, we already have small roundabouts. You may be going, but Josh, why do you care? Because That's a small roundabout, and that's a big one. Takes up significantly more space, and it makes planning around corners a lot harder. Okay, so we've done that. We've got some complaints from the locals. This industrial building is waiting for a hearse, which we don't have the ability to do anything with yet. Well, we do, we just don't have a building built for it. This one's waiting for an ambulance, can't do anything with it. These farms are saying that they don't have enough workers to do anything, and they're pretty much right. 3 of 12, 2 of 8, 1 of 6, 2 of 11, that's not enough for a farm. We've got plenty of demand for light or low density residential, medium, commercial, and we do have demand for workers too. But the first thing we need to fill is that demand for, we have demand for industry, but we need to put our people to work. One thing we did unlock though that I do love would be row housing. And row housing is what it sounds like. Rows of houses. You'll be able to recognize these right off. With the French pack, we unlock a different type of row housing for the look. We'll be putting these to use soon, but for right now, we are just going to settle with some good old-fashioned European medium row houses. But these look best when you design neighborhoods specifically for them. To me, when I think of row houses, I think of either busy San Francisco streets or places out in the country where there are, planned neighborhoods with farms nearby or other major industrial areas. So like you have a giant Amazon plant, then you've got 2 neighborhoods down that have been nothing but row houses built to support them. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what we're going to build. That's what we're going to do. So we'll make use of this intersection right here. And this one. We'll start by filling in our row housing in just a second. I do want to force these houses to all face this road. So we're cutting off the zoning on that side. And I'm going to cut off zoning right there. And that'll force all of these houses to face this road. And I'm thinking for one quick second, is this exactly where I want? Yeah, you know what? This is. Now, the equivalent for this would be as if you're facing a 4-lane road in a major city, and you wouldn't necessarily want to have your house built on that. But wow, we do have all the space in the world. Right now, I'm focusing on this area right here. Our families will be more than happy to live right here against the side of the road. When we level to level 1, we did unlock some new buildings while those residential hubs come in. And those buildings include small medical clinics and of various shapes and sizes, and also some cemetery services, and eventually we'll be able to unlock crematoriums. For right now, though, let's just do something very small. This is a brand new city. People historically never start with a gigantic cemetery out in the middle of nowhere, but they do start with churches. And we would normally see a church or expect a church right in the middle of a low density neighborhood or behind some houses. So let's spin around right over here. You can see that there's a little icon that's demanding that I put a road right in front of it, or else this building isn't going to work. And since I don't quite know how many cells this building takes up, and sometimes that's difficult, we're going to ignore that. We're going to make sure that our building is as even as possible. With those buildings, and I think about as even as we can make it. Well, that's just weird. We put the building down, but it didn't actually put the building down. Where's the church? What? Well, Heidi ho, glitched asset. There normally is a building right there. I don't know why there isn't. Don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Shoot. Hang on. That's going to cost us money. That's going to set us back. I'm sorry, but I can't live this way. The church is missing. Wow. Okay. Well, this is going to be spawning. That's upsetting. This is going to be spawning hearses, and hearses will be responding to calls where people have unfortunately passed away. Hearse is going to go over there, and I think later another hearse is going to be making its way up there, or to there first. In fact, if you click on the hearse, it's going to tell you where it's headed. And in this case, it's going to be up there. And if we really wanted to be fancy, we could click. We could follow it if we so wanted to go for a tour of the city. I don't want to right now. All right, the other thing that's being demanded is a medical complex. This is one of those things where I don't usually bother with one until I absolutely have to, because all of these buildings that you build, with the exception of zones or free buildings, do have an upkeep cost. Every time we have an upkeep cost, we'll lose money. So let's keep it small, keep it simple. We're going to build a, let's see, difference between a small medical clinic and a French medical center is that a small medical clinic has 3 ambulances and 25 patient capacity, or twice that gets us 5 ambulances, 150 patients, or a little bit in between gets us 90 patients and 5 ambulances. And a lot less cargo storage. Not that we need to worry about cargo storage, but still. And the UK medical practice just, yeah, is ridiculous. So let's do, I feel like, okay, that's 30 for 3, or let's just do this simple modern medical clinic. Oh wait, let's check the upkeep. On this one, it's 18,000 to 76,000 a month versus 10,000 to 24. That's a significant upkeep difference. Same with these. As much as I would prefer the modern medical clinic, for right now, we're just going to go with a small medical clinic, and we're going to stick it somewhere that is close by-ish to some of the larger residential sections and still towards a drag to get up to the industry area. Why does that not look even? Does that look not even to you guys? Try that again. $90. Now, who knows? And once again, we're going to force zoning by using a path right here. Oops, didn't get that path even. That's still really bothering me about the parish church. I hope it fixes itself next time I play. You may notice, though, all of a sudden we have all this extra traffic coming in, including all of these taxis, and they're like, hey, we're coming. That's because you've built new residential areas. And whenever you build any new residential area, you're going to be flooded by incoming volumes of people moving into your city. You want them to move into your city. You need them to move into your city. And they got to come in somehow. And for whatever reason, it's almost always by taxi. But I did make a mistake here. You see how these houses, instead of facing this street, are facing Autumn Street? Well, yeah, we don't want that. We didn't want that. We're going to pause the game, bulldoze all of them, make people very unhappy with us, draw a path to force them onto this street, do that, turn the game speed back up, and now they're building in the right direction. But we do have people begging for medical help, and I'm not such a monster that I won't provide it for them. So let's come over here. Now, medical centers do produce noise. People living next to them don't like the noise. People living next to them can stuff it. Okay, so we've built that. This building doesn't have any extensions that come along with it, so this building is what it is. We do have some space back here between these buildings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some North American low density housing for that block. More of it beside the graveyard. Then over here, use some Japanese style low density commercial next to the medical clinic. And I'm going to take a small pedestrian street, which is a recent addition to the game. And we're going to carefully pause. No, no sense in pausing it. If we started to draw over these, you would see that they would be highlighted. You see that little weird overlapping icon. But we're just going to carefully fill the space in. Can't do anything right here because that graveyard does spit over from roadside to roadside. And I swear that is not even. It's not even because the building isn't even, I bet that's it. Yeah. It does cost you money to move buildings, so try to do so responsibly. That was a stupid thing I just did, but that couple pixels difference was really bothering me. All right, let's get the speed back on. Well, let's see if we can draw a pedestrian path through the church without interrupting. Can we? No, we cannot. Bummer. That's okay. We'll live. But what I can do now is delete those pathways. They're no longer necessary. And we'll add one last little bit of row housing, since they only take up one cell deep, to fill in the rest of that block. All right, so we've made this area a little bit more walkable. It'll prevent in the future people from having to unnecessarily use crosswalks in this one particular area. And every little bit of that you can help to keep your traffic flow up and going, the better. We have had nearly 600 people move in since we've started. Our citizens are kind of unhappy, but they always start that way. There's nothing you can really do about that. We do have demand for industry, for commercial zones, and for more light residential. And this is something that I'm going to point out right now, really early. What you're seeing right now is not even what I would consider a quarter or even an eighth of a district that you'll be building later. In the future, as your city grows up, as you get a positive income, as you're ready to start making massive decisions, you're going to say, well, hey, I need to buy 6 tiles. And then you're going to plot out a whole neighborhood in those 6 tiles in a space a lot like this. That's going to be strictly residential, or residential and office mixed together, or parks and all of those things. And this, I hate to say it, this is kind of a joke the way you have to start it out with, because you plot so slow, so small, that it doesn't really prepare you for large-scale planning later on. And unfortunately, it also doesn't allow you to start making a profit anywhere near fast enough, as we are right now sitting at negative 10,000 an hour, or sorry, negative 2,000 an hour. We're also sitting at the last of my Mountain Dew for that bottle. Bummer. Now, I warned you at the start, this is probably going to take us 2 or 3 different sessions to get through to get your city to turn a profit. And, well, that's the truth. What we're going to do right now is take a look through some of our signature buildings. And look for something that you would say, hey, somebody just, founded a city. Where does the mayor live? Does the mayor get their own special place to live? And no, they don't. But we're going to fake that just for the sake of having something to put here. That's a little special just to kind of ground things out in your city as you begin the game. We're going to set down this UK executive mansion for 2 well-being within 500 km. We unlocked it right when we got Tiny City, I think. Or we can take a look. Let's see. What are these other new small things? We have pubs, inns and bistros. Here we go. It's actually the church, inn, and pub, I think. And what this will do, this will give +3 well-being to your citizens within 300 meters, and will decrease your city's import costs and increase attractiveness. That import cost is important because right now our city isn't making a whole lot. We're making a lot of farming stuff, but even then, not a whole lot of that. Everything else that your citizens want to buy, cars and clothes and meds and concrete, they're all being exported in, and those exports affect your economy in a negative way. The more services you can provide for, or the more you can cut your import costs down, the better off you are. First, Milestone 2 unleashed. We've got new development points, a little bit more cash, a little bit more room to expand, and some more development points. We've also picked up a new signature building that we're going to ignore. Right now, we're going to put down this one. And we have assets name UK Pub 01 is what we have. Oh, hey, our church built though. Yay! There we can see the church graveyard that I wanted to build. Yippee! We have dead people. Yay. All right. Let's take a look at the new things that unlocked for us, and then we'll be wrapping up this stream and our first in a few episodes worth of Dead Men Plays Cities Skylines. So, what do we got? Level 2, small village. 2 additional development points, which is a good thing. Nothing so much under power that I care about. That. Crematoriums, hospital, don't. We'll eventually need a crematorium. That'll be a big thing. Hospitals will be huge too. Most of the stuff in this tree is pretty useful. Over here with garbage management. Garbage management is a huge problem in this game that can be solved with one simple building. This one. It's a pollutant, it's a danger, it's a pain in the backside. Recycling centers are how we're going to go. We'll be using more of them as the game progresses, but they themselves are also expensive. We're not getting that right now. And education. We do not need to invest in a college right this second, so we're actually not going to spend any of our available development points. We don't need to just yet. We will very soon. Very, very soon. But for right now, we also happen to unlock the bane of my existence in Cities Skylines. I don't have kids, but I value education. In fact, I value education as one of the most important things that we have, and something that we desperately need to work on as a society, a culture, and hell, for that matter, a planet. Preachy hat off. In this game, though, when your citizens first move in, it seems like the vast majority of them are children and stupid. And you will find as you develop, you'll be building more elementary schools than just about anything else in the game. And it doesn't help that they come in a wide variety of flavors and sizes and everything else like that. And only one of them has a decent cost-benefit analysis attached to it. And that would be the City Elementary School for $150,000 with an upkeep of $20,000 a month and a student capacity of 1,500. If you look up under education right now, though, in the upper left corner of the screen, you'll see that we only have 89 kids eligible for elementary, 123 for high school, 76 college, 88-ish for university, and I'm sorry to you lovely people, you'll have to settle for being stupid for the time being. We're going to start with kids. And initially, the game only gave you this huge elementary school, which took up all the space in the world, and I hated it so much. The city elementary school is much smaller, but that increase in monthly cost, it's going to kind of eat us up because the difference is 17,500 versus, say, 5. But with a small elementary school like this one, which is got just as big of a footprint as a city elementary school, we can only handle not even half the students. It's going to be a quarter of the students by the time we put our first upgrade in. So it's up to you. Do you want to build a small one right now for 40,000 or a large one that's going to cost more that you're going to be filling up as the game progresses? This is a question only you can answer. The only thing that comes close, in my opinion, would be the urban elementary school with the student capacity of 1,200 and an upkeep, though, that is twice as high as the city elementary. Having said all of that, if you are interested in looks as much as you are education, take a peek down at the Denmark Elementary School, which for 50,000 less has the same student capacity and better upkeep costs, is a bit bigger. It's also pretty freaking cool if you ask me. Make a pretty solid campus out of those in a hurry, and the French elementary schools, and I love these. 125, so it's almost the same price as the Silly Elementary, with about 2,000 students less capacity. I know it says 1,000, but you do get to upgrade these. For roughly the same upkeep. Again, listen, I have a hard time justifying it. As of this moment, there's apparently a bug with the UK primaries, with the UK buildings, so I'm not even looking at those right now. And the Japanese elementary schools, gorgeous, until you zoom out. And then a bug kicks in, and they make them look like something out of the Matrix. I'm just going to go ahead, and I'll regret this. We're going to have to work a little bit harder. I'm going to put down a city elementary school right in the middle of where I think a lot of my residential is going to be. Because looking at our plan right now, we know we've got industrial up here. We'll have some more industrial coming in over here. We've got industrial down here. Our people are going to be coming down all the way down here, up there, and out this direction. So what that tells me is that city center area for the first good bit of what we do is going to be roughly about here, and our road network is going to indicate that I'm going to be better off pulling a 2-lane road from this intersection, keeping it at our 90, 80 degrees, dropping it all the way over there, and then we've got 2-lane, walking, 4-lane, and then 6-lane up here. So we're roughly due for another 4-lane road, just for the sake of road management and network planning. So we're going to drag that all the way out there. And not that it's really needed, we're just going to go ahead and finish up our grid. 180 degrees, 180 degrees. I know that is not even. How did that get uneven? You can tell it's not even because it slowly breaks this way. This is the kind of stuff that drives me insane. One of these roads is not at 90 degrees somehow. Okay, right here, 90. Still at 90. We haven't deviated. We're still doing 180. 180. No deviation. Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? I don't know. One of these roads, despite the fact that we have lined everything up at 90-degree angles, at every time we have done it, is not at a 90-degree angle. Because we have made a trapezoid right here. That hurts me on the inside in a big way. If it was me, if I wasn't doing this for a stream for you guys, I would be ripping this out and starting over. I'm not kidding. But in real life, cities are not perfect places. They are places built by people. Damn. And sometimes we just have to settle for the occasional imperfection, despite however much it is going to make us want to rip our eyeballs out whenever we happen to see it. In the meantime, though, we will go ahead and fix our zoning the way we want it by forcing our zoning to go the direction we want it. Like a good neighborhood planner. And then we're going to cheat a little bit, sort of. And by that, I mean, it looks like we determined that our best spot for school is going to be right in here. We're going to slide it right here. It's feels a little higher than I want it to be, but we'll live. We're going to slide it. Yeah, it's a little bit higher than I want it to be. I'm going to go ahead and slide it right down here. It's not going to hurt anything. This building does have an upgrade path, but it's all contained within its same footprint. This part will go on top of it. This part will go in the middle of it. We don't have to worry about it exceeding its ultimate footprint any more than what it already has. So what we can do is to take our shortly. Let me back that up. What we're going to do first is zone some residential facing this way. Yeah, just some basic light residential going that direction. And then a little bit more going this direction. I'm going to put in some light commercial right beside it. And the reason why we're putting that in right now is so that when we put in this road, it won't interfere with those zones. Since those zones are already being built, it's not going to interfere with the way the zoning layout is being developed. Otherwise, it would screw them up. Take a look over here in this section. You'll see when I drag this out, suddenly these tiles became zonable. Those tiles didn't. It's something that they figured out how to keep from happening in Skylines 1 and then decided not to implement it in Skylines 2. Don't know why. I love the devs. They're doing a great job, but sometimes they confuse me. And then behind these buildings on this walkable path, we'll put some more low density commercial right in through there. And we'll do the same thing over here. Put in a little bit of low density residential right there. I'm going to ignore that block right now. All right, now we let all that stuff zone in. We'll go ahead and add a little bit of extra row housing right down there. And this is why I love the row housing so much, because look at this. This is all a busy main street right now of heavy housing, and then people are literally just walking over to work at their industrialized farms. Is working at an industrialized farm where you want to spend your whole life? I would assume not. But there are worse things to look at than a pumpkin patch. And this is the only time you'll see me putting residential next to any kind of industry, is when we are doing stuff with our various assorted farming. That's it. When we do forestry momentarily, I'm not doing any of that. However, there is one more thing we can do before I have to log off and get ready to spend New Year's Eve with myself and a rack of ribs I can't wait to dig into. Can't wait to stick them in the oven. And that is going to be exploiting the game. Now, up until this point, I've been very careful about not doing anything that wouldn't seem moderately realistic or that you wouldn't anticipate in a real world setting. Industry supporting farming, uh, small factory shops popping up a few districts over, whatever have you. A schoolhouse, a crematorium, a church for, people being buried at, basic stuff. This game, under our various, excuse me, signature buildings, does have a section for industrial signature. And these industrial signature buildings have their own special requirements. For example, the vehicle factory requires 10 oil drilling area hub buildings. The ground earth, crushing rocks into smaller rocks, takes mining hub buildings. The dairy house takes agriculture buildings. The paper factory takes forestry buildings. The chemical plant is the first thing that requires a set number of cells, and a cell is one of these little icons right here. So this would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 18. This would be 24 cells worth of medium density European buildings, just to give you an idea of what a cell count is. And then later, we need some that are level 5 that have existed, that have industrial buildings that have leveled up to the maximum that they can. This one requires you to have a college plus 100 level 5 industrial manufactured buildings. This one requires a population of 10,000 plus a medical university. And this one requires a technical university plus all that. So let's take a look at these first 4 though. The vehicle factory, the ground earth, the dairy house, and the paper factory. In some cities, when you start, you don't have access to a lot of farming area. You have access to wood, or you have access to farming, but not a lot of wood. That's sort of going to define which of these 2 buildings you pick. So when we started, we built our hub buildings, these 4 right here. Now, funny thing about this, I don't know if you happen to notice, but when we put these down, it didn't tell me that I had to put it somewhere. It just told me that it's a free building. Right now we have 4 of them. Yay, it's a free building. It says there's a road required. Okay, so let's put it down and not do anything with it. Out in the middle of nowhere. Then I'm going to delete it because I don't want it there, because it's a stupid place to put a building. There's no road, there's no whatever. We go over here though, and suddenly, oh, we're still at 4. But hey, guess what? You notice that building was free, right? If you're going to lock something in a game behind a fake achievement wall, make it count. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've now unlocked our dairy house. Here is my real world justification for this. You cannot tell me that you would not have an industrial site source out of town and say, hey, listen, I think what you have is great. You have just enough resources for us to do. We're not going to build here because you don't have 10 farming buildings. It doesn't make sense. You can say you don't have enough population for us to justify building this. That makes sense. You can say we don't think you have enough resources available to justify us here when we can put it in another location. That makes sense. In this case, though, we can put down our farming buildings or our forestry buildings or oil hubs or whatever else and unlock one of this and then just build it. And that's what we're going to do here. So I've put down those to no cost, to no detriment. We're going to delete them. What you would expect to see happen in the real world is to have a place say, hey, listen, I think you've got a lot of potential. I'd like to build this here. Build this here, we'll build up around it. And that is what we're going to do. We have access now, because we built 10 buildings, doesn't matter that we didn't keep all of them. We're going to go ahead and build up our dairy house. If you feel this is cheating, I am sorry, because I don't want it to look like I'm exploiting the game or I'm taking advantage of something. But this build system is so stupid that it's. I'm not saying that you can't do it the way the developers intended. I'm saying that developers didn't necessarily get this part of it right. Um, your opinion on that may be entirely different. This isn't going to make a huge difference on us. We are losing 2,500 an hour. And this building is not going to solve our problems. But this building is going to give us something to build around. I'm going to set this down up here. Whoops. I haven't even built it yet and we get a bonus. I'm going to set this down up here and we're going to use it to develop this industrial park around. Or maybe I'm going to set it back down here and we'll go ahead and develop a little bit of this farming area around the concept of having this special building here. And again, if this is upsetting to you, if you think this is somehow cheesing the game or whatever, I do apologize. I genuinely do. Uh, I don't like to cheat at games. I don't like to exploit broken systems. I don't. That's not who I am or what I do. At the same time, I think sometimes if the game is going to reward you for playing in a certain way, then it's just worth playing in that certain way. So let's go ahead. Let's set our dairy farm down right over here next to that gravel driveway we just put in for looks. Okay. This is going to be able to employ 85 people. It is going to require vegetables and livestock. Livestock we don't have yet, so we'll build a livestock farm in a second. It's going to produce food, and it's going to boost our industrial efficiency and our total export profits. This isn't going to change anything right this second, but it is going to change things momentarily. Shortly, anyways. So I'm going to set that down. Livestock is special in this game because you can put it on an area with heavy resource availability or no resource availability whatsoever and still generate the same amount of resource. So if I was, that said, if I owned a farm and I didn't want to make my neighbors want to murder me, I would put it as close to my other farms as possible. Just saying. So we're going to sneak this livestock facility back over here, build this out. I'm honestly wasting prime space right now. I really should make this vegetables or something else to take advantage of these resources right here, because I'm completely wasting that square. The same token, I'm wasting this space too, because this isn't generating anything with the resources that are in the ground. It's just taking up space that a farm like these could be making use of. But you know what? 110% honest, these farms are ugly. This one, thankfully, spawned a little building in it, but looking at it from afar, it's all the same shade of tan. And all of the other specialized industrial areas look the same way, except so much worse. And this is just something we're going to have to live with. It's the limitation of the game, and I'm anticipating this part of it to get better. One thing we can do, though, is to lay down some trees using our line tool. To give this area at least a little bit of character. And try to make it look somewhat better for your sakes, my sakes, and whoever else's sakes. Now, once again, the dairy farm thing, it may seem like a hack, it may seem like a cheat. I struggle to think that that isn't working as intended. Just for people like me who don't want to see 10 different, massive sprawling ore complexes eating up critical space in the city. My opinion may be wrong, though. It may not work for you. If it was something where it would suddenly make all the difference in the world and you were like, oh, wait, no, this is completely exploitative, then I would probably agree with you and wouldn't have done it. But while it does have an impact, it is a small one. It's positive enough to make it worth the 30 seconds it took to do that trick, but we're just going to go with it. And you don't have to do it yourself. This is not the end all be all. It did decrease our total monthly deficit by about $600. Not a lot. It's a start. It's a little. I'm okay with it. I hope you are too. All right, we're going to try to wedge in, if we can, some green bushes, some plants, something over here. Oh, whoops. When you zoom in, you can see a level of detail. You can see, oh, hey, there's actually fencing around that. And some of that level of detail issue, that's me. I don't have the strongest computer in existence. Kind of wish I did. But most of the time, you're not going to be super duper zoned in on a gravel road outside of one of your farming facilities. Okay. Build that line of trees right there to cover that up. It helps. Same right there. Right there. You can leave that as it is. Okay. And it's a different type of tree than what's over there that's going to stick out like a sore thumb. We'll hope it doesn't annoy me later. Okay, but look, we've got a little bit of extra room left over here that we can build on. That's not going to leave things too cramped. So let's come over, and again, we'll get some row houses built in. We'll be careful that we don't put them down right where our new set of trees are. We'll set those right there. And you may also be wondering, Josh, do you not like parks? What gives? I love parks. I think parks are awesome. I love parks in this game. We just haven't unlocked them yet. Parks don't unlock until level 4. We're only at level 3. However, what did unlock advanced that we do want to look at, we have options for police and fire, which are useful, but we're not going to build right now. We do have options for that recycling center I was telling you about earlier, but the incineration center is $1 million. The recycling center is 8,800, 1,000, and honestly, we aren't even at 700,000 anymore. So we can skip those for right now. That's outside of our pay grade. Same thing with the crematorium and hospital and the water treatment plant, because that's expensive too. We can ignore our electricity needs for the moment for a little bit longer. Can pick up advanced road services, which we'll want, and large roads, which we'll really want. We're also going to want to get highways, because even though we're not upgrading them right now, we're going to be upgrading them sooner rather than later. In addition to that, we have unlocked additional tiles that we can use to say, buy those 3. But when we buy them, we get a couple different things. Total number of permits used, 3 of the 12 we've earned so far. And then our cost, 70,000, which we can't afford. But our tile upkeep of 40,000 a month, we can't as easily afford. We don't need the space yet. We will. Not right now. No sense in pushing it forward if we don't have to. One other thing that I should have bought instead of highways, though, would be parking areas. Parking areas, parking lots, and stuff like that are a great way to fill in your city. Your citizens do demand them, otherwise they'll be parking on the side of the streets like a bunch of heathens. We can't have that. And in a spot like this, it'd be great to have a small gravel parking lot right here next to the farm, next to the dairy house, and everything else. But we've made significant progress so far. I am going to go to our 6-lane roads. No, I'm going to go up to our 8-lane divided road, and we're going to expand this road. Not because we need to right now. In a way, it's almost a waste of money, but I'm a visualization kind of guy. If I can see how my development's going to go, it makes it a lot easier on me for the future. And we'll extend that all the way down there. While we're at it, we'll go ahead then and link up this. Yep, 90 degrees, we're good. Come over. Connected. Use a large roundabout. Go with a star right here. Perfect. Connect a medium one right there. Yeah, that's not medium enough. There we go. And we'll finish up these 2-lane roadways. Okay, we've got them connected to the main drag. Here's a road error that we can correct. 4-lane, 4-lane, 2-lane to 8-lane. Why would we do that? We need to make sure that this arterial is connected to the network the way it's supposed to be. There we go. And I probably just used arterial wrong, and now CPP is going to send somebody to come over and whap me in the head with a newspaper. If Senpai ever notices me. All the love in the world of City Planner Plays. Guy is amazing. And we'll go ahead and finish this up too. The extra intersections aren't going to kill anybody right now. But something that is going to kill people are crosswalks. Let's get rid of them. I don't know if they'll actually kill anybody, but they will slow traffic down like a madman. And right now, we don't need them. We'll come back and re-add these later once we decide what our pedestrian routes are going to look like. But for the moment, all they're doing is slowing down traffic on that main bridge. People aren't walking across the street all the way, but they are being forced to stop. This 8-lane highway has got a much bigger speed limit than our 4-lane roads do. And that does make a difference for how the gameplay goes. And while we're doing things, we'll take these 4 lanes off here on the side, convert them up to 6. And then when we eventually buy this tile, we'll do that down here as well. And while I think about it, you know, I made this a 4. Let's go ahead and make this a 6 as well. And we'll push it right up there. So it can be right up against the tree line. We're good to go. Hey, what do you know? We'll get rid of these. These unlock once you unlock road services. We'll leave that crosswalk there, but not those. Okay. That looks pretty good to me. I don't know what you guys think, but to me, it looks pretty, you know, pretty spiffy. Okay, and in a sane world leading up towards the industrial areas, we'll go ahead and increase this to 6-lane traffic as well. In a very sane world, we would have had this be a 6-lane road, but we're not that sane. We'll convert this next batch into 6-lane when we build our timber industry. But that's how we've started a city. We are at a deficit, but we've got plenty of room to grow. We've got all kinds of demand for low residential, medium residential, and just about everything else. And that's a great start. So, as much as I hate to call it quits, if I don't eat, I will regret it. And boy, that is really just off, isn't it? Unreal. Don't know how I did that. Really don't. Like, it's not even sane right there. Oops, I just offended a bunch of people. Sorry, a bunch of people. Your sacrifice will entirely be in vain, and nothing I can do about that. Because that's the way the sim sims. No, you still decided to live there, even though you're facing the wrong way. Which is my fault. Ah, well. What can you do? What can you do? In this case, next to nothing. We can fix that gravel road, though. We'll create a branching node right there. upgrade that. Delete that path. It's not necessary. See, and it's just annoying when they do stuff like this too. I mean, yeah, it's better optimization for The Sims, but now it's completely just facing the wrong way, and we're not. We're gonna have to pause. We just forced a bunch of people to move out of town. They all hate me now. It's a good thing I don't have to be elected. Okay, that one isn't expanding all the way. There we go. Delete it and force it. Yeah, I'll let those two go there. That's fine. Okay. Well, my friends, my family who might be friends, my friends who might be family, I don't know. I don't know who's watching the stream right now. I have no idea these things. It is time for me to take off. I will do this again in the next couple of days. Tomorrow's stream, though, for those of you who are going to be watching on Twitch and not on YouTube, I'm going to show you guys how to maximize the crap out of your efforts with taking advantage of the weekly scoreboard changeover. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you all very much for listening to this. This has been a dream of mine to do for the last year, of building a city from scratch on a stream. I hope I've explained things clearly, and I hope I'm putting these things into practice for you. I'm sorry if it's a little boring, but I hope at least the sound of me talking is something helpful. I don't know why it would be helpful, but I hope it is. Until then, until the next time I see you guys, have a happy 2024, and thank God it's almost over. The year, that is, just to clarify. See you in 2025. Have a great night, all the love in the world, and once again, welcome to Cities Skylines 2.